Hello everyone, my name is Matt Kreitz. Welcome to module number 4. In this module, we're going to cover intake of brand new students, intake forms, how to get your student information in, why is all of this stuff required, why is there so much student level data and things like that, and assign them to courses, get them in the system, and move them from one course to another. All of that will be taken care of in this module, module number 4. So let's get started. I've logged into Enters and I'm on the default screen. In the last module, we created some teachers and we created some courses. We have to have this foundation in order to be able to do an intake on students to assign them to these courses. In the last module, I stated that if you're going to have an orientation class, that it is a good practice to assign every single student through intake to that one orientation course so that you know where they're at and they're easily tracked. It's easier for data entry to just put them in at the time into one course that's the orientation course, because they all have to have an orientation anyway, and then figure out based on their locator tests or pre-tests where you're going to put them. So in this module, when I do intakes, every single intake of a student is going to be added to this OR01 course that is an orientation only course, and they will all be put into that, and my student views will start to populate. And then I will show you how to go, okay, well, that's an ELL student that needs to be in Tracy's class, or this is an ABE student that needs to be in Bill's class, and put them in that course. And then start assigning them attendance hours and things like that. All right. So I'm going to close these two views. It was just a recap. I'm going to go to views and students and explain some things on the student views screen, even though it's not populated yet. All of our grids, when you open the grid, no matter how big they are, you have these options available to you. The first, any column header can be sorted on. And when I get student data in here, it'll make more sense. But if you click on a column header, it will sort by that column header. It's not going to now. I don't have any data for it to sort. The other thing that you can do, and this is a personal preference of how I want to see the student data, is that you can pick up, you can left click on any column. Here, I'll do it on the teachers because I've got teacher information there. You can pick up and move any column wherever you want. So on the students, when I get students in, I'm going to move the issues column over beside the student names, and then I'm going to also move their focus subject over. Here's the reason why. You're required to have all student errors and errors in your system cleaned by the 10th of the month. The student views has much more information on it, and it stretches across the screen. So instead of having to scroll all the way over to the right to find what's the problem with this student in red, move that column over next to the student, sort on it, and then you'll be able to see what the issue is. Same with the focus subject, right? If you put the focus subject next to the student name, then you know what focus subject they're studying at a quick glance. So you have the name, the issues, and focus subject. That's just a personal preference. You do not have to do that. It will just be easier for you to see your errors. So, like I was saying, there's a lot of information here on the student views. Once I start getting student information in, I'll show you how to do it. So now we're going to go over how do you actually get students into your system. Okay, so they sit down in your orientation class, you have them fill out a registration form with all of their information and demographics and all of that stuff. How do you get them into Inters? Well, we created a simple intake form, and all programs need to use a registration form that has all of our required information along with any of your information that you want to track for the student. But at minimum, it has to include all of our required information. So on tasks, under the tab, there's intake, testing, follow-up, and data matching. I'm going to click on intake. This brings up a new window with a new tab. And this is where all of your intake is done for students. Now, you must enter your data at a minimum of weekly. We suggest that you do your data every single day, but at minimum, all of your data has to be entered in bi-weekly. So if you do your data every Monday, that's fine. Just know that it's easier and better to do it every single day. So if you have an orientation class today, all right, and it's in the evening and you don't get those forms to your data person until Tuesday morning or tomorrow morning, this system automatically puts the date of the intake as the default for today's date. So you will have to know to change the application date for the students to the date that they did the orientation or that they came in and filled out the registration form. Right? It'll make sense when I open up the intake form. We have right here in this button, open Word intake form. If you have Microsoft Word on your computer, which I do not on this particular computer, if you click this, it will open our basic form that you can modify. Most every AE program doesn't even use our form. They have created their own, and you can work with our form or look at what is required in the data collection policy and determine and create your own form for your students to fill out. It's up to you. We're saying here's what you have to collect, and here's why, because it's a federal standard and federal guideline. And then you collect that however you wish. So when we click on a new intake, before I start entering any information, it's going to show you this intake editor. And if you notice, there's a whole bunch of stuff down here at the bottom. There's a save and new, save and close, save and edit, next, previous, and cancel. Save and new is when you've done the intake, you click save and new, it will save that old student intake and open up a fresh intake record for you. So if you have a stack of 5 to do, you just go save and new, do the next one, save and new, do the next one. When you're done with the last one, then you can do save and close. It will close this and all of your intake students will be there. Save and edit is once you've put this information in, it will open the physical student record in Inters and you can edit it from the student record. Okay? There are 4 pages to fill out. The first one is the general contact information and required information for this student. The next page is all of the required demographics information. The next page is any testing that you do on the student in the orientation course. You do not have to fill anything in here. This is not where I would even enter the pre-tests or the locator tests or anything for the student. Just leave this blank. It will save you time. The next page is how you assign them to a course, and it is called attendance. This is where you're going to put them into your course so that you see them in your student views. and they are assigned and enrolled in your program. Now, there's two ways to do it. You can just select the course in the top box, or you can select the course and put in the date of attendance in the bottom box. For speed, it is easier to just add them to a course in the top box and click Save and Close or Save and New. So, for example, I will put in a brand new student. I'm going to make sure that the application date is correct, which is today. They did their orientation this morning, and they got me the forms, and I can do the intake today. I'm going to make sure that the term is correct. This all defaults to today's date and the current term that we are in. It will also default to your site program record. Your site program record is the ABE program that is the umbrella for all of the locations. Okay, no classes are conducted at the fiscal agent, and no classes are conducted at the ABE program. They're only in sub-locations of those two entities. So I'm going to select DWD test. Social Security number. In the data collection policy, we require you as a program to request the student's Social Security number. It does not mean that it is required to have on file for you to teach the student, but you are required to ask them for it. If they refuse, click SSN unavailable. But no, without the Social Security number, a lot of the data matching that we do for you for follow-up for employment, because we are the Department of Workforce Development, we have access to those records, won't happen. HSE testing, we have access to all of their files that they send us, and we data match the HSE files so you don't have to manually enter the scores. DRC and TABE testing, all the online files, we get every one of those tests. If you don't enter their Social Security number, that data match doesn't happen. Strive to get the Social Security numbers. For me, I'm going to just click SSN unavailable to speed the process up, because A, I don't want to even attempt to type in a fake Social Security number that may match as a real Social Security number. So you just start at the top, last name. You do not have to put the middle initial in. It is not read, but the last and first name have to be entered in. You have to give them a valid address. For the city, state, and zip, if you type the zip first, okay, it will automatically fill in the city for you. State defaults to Indiana. Now you can put in their contact information if you want, their email, their date of birth. All right, so their date of birth, let's go back a few years. When you put their date of birth in, and you see this age button over here, when I click anywhere else, it calculates their age. I know it says age here. This is not their actual age. This is their age at application. It is their age based on that date of birth and that application date. Okay? If a student is 15 at the date of application, you are not allowed to teach that student. You can only teach students who are 16 or older, and 16 and 17-year-olds must have a parent or guardian signature. You must have high school exit forms on file for those students. And it'll make more sense when I get to the next page for the demographics, because there's exit information for them. Any student who is of 16 or 17 years old must have those signatures, or you cannot educate them. If you do not have those high school exit forms in their physical folder file, you can't teach them. It is illegal. It is against federal regulations as well as state law. All right. Can't state that clearer than that, I don't think. But what is critical, it's their age at application. All right. If you notice, the app date is 6/22/2020, and they're 38. If I change their date of birth to 23 and click again, they're 37. Notice they're not 38 yet, even though their birthday is in a day. If they apply, they will be counted in this age cohort of 37, even though they're going to turn 38 tomorrow. They will be a 37-year-old in your program. It's age at application. Okay? So, it's just critical to understand because some of the federal reports group them by their age at application in a group of age brackets for reporting purposes. Their gender, male, female, or unknown. Ethnicity, you have two options, Hispanic or other. If they say they are Hispanic, you mark Hispanic and you do not have to mark anything else. If they are other and not Hispanic, you must select one of these races. Okay, so other and white. Native country, you leave it blank if they are a natural citizen of the United States of America. Just leave it blank. If they are not a U.S. citizen, mark yes or no. If they're not a U.S. citizen, then you're going to need to fill in what native country they are. And all of them are in this drop down. So that's this first page. So let's move on to the next. Employment status at the time of their application. Are they employed, not employed? Are they not in the labor force? Are they on military separation pending? Or are they actually on unemployment more than 26 weeks? You'll know this by doing an interview with them. So I'm going to say that he's employed. If you know they are employed and you have their employer information, enter it in. Their education status. School attend status at entry. Here's where I was talking about the compulsory age of stuff. If you select in school, secondary school, or less, if they're still attending high school, you can't teach them. They have to be exited from high school. If they're in school but in an alternative school and they haven't been exited from the actual school program, the only way you can educate them then is if you have an agreement with the school corporation that you're doing adult secondary credit recovery. Are they in school in a post-secondary school and you're helping with remediation? That's viable. That's fine. Not attending school or secondary school dropout. Most of your students are going to fall into this category. Not attending school, secondary school, graduate, or has recognized equivalent. So they're not in school, they've graduated, or they have an HSE. So they've graduated with a diploma or have an HSE. Not attending school within age of compulsory school attendance. That's 16 to 17-year-old students. If you have a 16 or 17-year-old students, that is the only option that you can mark. So I'm just going to go with the generic. Their current enrollment type, adult basic education. And then all of these impairments and demographics, I'm going to mark no for all of them to save time to get the student into the system. At the time when you do the orientation, your intake coordinator or whoever you have doing the orientation class should be asking these questions of these people at the time when they're filling out the form to have, explain these things. I'm going to skip the testing. I'm going to go to the last one, which is the course. I'm going to click in the gray bar. I'm going to select the orientation course by clicking on the course code and I click OK. I'm going to save and close. And then it comes up with a message, intake saved successfully. The new student was assigned the internal system ID. That is an internal unique number that the system assigns. And boom, the page refreshes. Here is the student intake record done for this student who was assigned to the orientation course. Now, let's check to see if my work was done correctly. So I'm going to go to Views and Students and View All, and Obi should pop up as my one and only student. That means I have them assigned and enrolled in my program properly. Now, I assign them to the orientation course. Let's double check to make sure that they're in that course. So let's go to Views and Courses. Here's the orientation course. I'm going to double click it. And I'm going to go to the Students tab on the course, and there is Obi. Okay? That's the way you verify that your data entry was done correctly. If you do not see a name here, do not do the intake again. It saved it. It saved it. If the student is not here after you did the save and close one time, do not do the intake again. Excuse me. You will create a duplicate student record. Let's say that again. If you clicked close and save on the intake form, the student record saved. Do not do the intake again. If this happens to you, remote into us through BOMGAR from Module 1, and we will help you and show you where that student record is. If you do not assign them to a course at the very last step, they will not show up on your student views. I'll say that again too. If you do not assign them to a current course in your current term, when you click close and save on the last page, they will not be a currently enrolled student in your system. You will not see them on your current list of student views. All right, so let's do another intake. Let's get some more people in this course. I don't know how to spell it. I can't spell Millennium Falcon, even though I should know how to do it. Again, I'm just going to enter a zip. Click next. He's a ruffian. He didn't graduate, so he is still not attending. ABE. Nope. 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 Oh no. I'm going to skip the testing page. I'm going to click on the course. Click on that. Click OK. Save and close. And now there's Han Solo. Now I could go through all those steps again to check, but I'm going to just continue on with another intake. Good morning. Welcome back. It's been a minute. I have already posted the first few videos. I'm finalizing all of those. As you can tell, I am now in a red shirt, and if you started watching this video, I was in a blue shirt. I stopped at a time where I entered a couple of students, and then I stopped and then started entering some more students, so you didn't have to see me do that. I now have a list of students, but I'm going to do some review really quick. It's been a minute, so welcome back. Don't worry about the time swap with the red shirt to the blue shirt and the change in the studio here. It's okay. We're all good. That's the magic of video editing. So what I did, as in a review, is I was at tasks and did intakes on students. And I did those intakes on a certain date. And I said, if you want to see who has had an intake done or who did what, if you set your from date on the intake screen back to the date of any date that you did an intake, and in my case that was on 6/22 when I recorded that, and you click search, it will bring up the list of all of the students that you had an intake done. So if you're doing intakes once a week, twice a week, every day, every date that you set the from and to date to will pull up the list of students for the intakes on that day. So here's my 5 students. I'm going to now show you how to do an intake on a student so that you don't create a duplicate. So every student that is in our system currently, through career and technical education, through all of the adult ed, for every single year of every single student that is in our database, from the start of the time we started this, if their social security number is already in the system and you go to type that social security number in, it will pull up a message that says, hey, this appears to be, boom, the student. When you're doing your intakes and you enter your social security number, if it does that, follow these steps. I'm going to say that again. When you type in assoc and it says this appears to be this student, follow these steps. All right. So I'm going to do a brand new intake. First thing I'm going to do is type in the social security number. And immediately it's going to say, you have entered a number which is already assigned to another student. If this is your student that you are doing the intake on, if it is your student, these are the steps you follow. You do not cancel. You do not continue on with the intake. You will create a duplicate student record. If it is your student, you will click the selected box right here, selected, this student, and then edit that student, and it will open that student record no matter where they were at in the system. Whether they were at an outside program, they were at somebody else's program, they were a CTE student. It will open the record for you to change. Once it opens the record, all you have to do to get them into your program so that you can see them are these steps. Hit the drop down on the program record button right here by the site program record. Add program demographics and goals. Select the term. Select the program location that you wish to put them in, which would be your program. Your list will only be your program. Once you have those two things selected, click Save. You do not need to do anything else. Do not click the checkbox. Just click Save. As you noticed, you may not have seen it, my screen kind of changed. And now I have an ABE program for Central 9 Career Center with an app date of none. And I have the original one for DWD testing that I did. And there's one for Blue River. A student can be enrolled in multiple ABE programs if they are close to 2 or more. And it happens quite a bit. And it's okay. When we get into the attendance and testing, I'll explain how to work it so that both programs benefit, the student benefits. You just have to communicate with the other AE program on testing and hours and say, hey, we had him for 20 hours and you've got him for 40 hours. If they test, your program will get the game too if they get a game. Every program will get a game. All right. So I added that program that new program record, the new site program record. And if you notice, it's not got an age application because I have to go over here to this demographic field and fill in all of the required information, just like if I did an intake on the student. You must enter the program information, all of these demographics, for every new site program record on a student. Required. That's why the intake, it's required. That's why it's all red and required here. If you don't do these things, there will be errors with the student that you must clean up by the 10th of the month. While we're here, I will go ahead and explain the student screen since I'm in a student record. So once you do an intake on a student, you create a student record for them. And it consists of the general screen that has their site program record, where they're currently enrolled, all of their general information. On this, you can do contacts. You can add contacts for next of kin, things like that, emergency contacts. You can do comments alerts, comments public, comments private, and then comments for the teachers. Your custom fields. So if you want to track that Johnny has red shoes only, you can put that in there. The demographics page, I was already on and kind of explained, but you have to fill in all of these things. And then once you enter their application date, it'll calculate their age at application and go from there. The Work One tab shows stuff that you can check if they're a SNAP student or school dropout. I mean, these are things that you can manually check for your tracking. Are they a WIA student? Are they unemployed? Are they an unemployment claimant? If you don't know it, it's fine. We can data match on it. The attendance tab shows every single course that a student has or is currently enrolled in. Once you select a course, and you can see on mine there are 0 hours because I haven't entered any attendance yet. I haven't done that module. All of their attendance will be listed over here on the right by day. So if they came in today in the morning and were here for an hour and then they came back tonight, you would enter that twice. You wouldn't bulk the hours together. Okay, that's 2 separate times that they attended because it may be 2 different courses and that's fine. Or it may be the same course that you just offer all day long. But all of their attendance will show up here. Once you select a different course, that attendance will load. They will have a total number of total hours in their adult education history. And then there will be an attendance right here that says the attendance for this course. And then there's total hours for the course that they're in listed on the grid. The next one is testing. All of their TABE tests or any tests that we will choose to use in the future will be listed here. It is a complete history of all of their tests, so you can see how a student has gone from any of the levels, how they've tested throughout all of them. This is also where you enter your HSE scores for HSE passing. And when we get into attendance and testing, this will make more sense, but that'll go there. You manually enter in the HSE score. To get credit for that HSE, you have to enter the score there. Then you have to go over here to the achievements and enter the achieved date that they passed the HSE on. Now, if you have their social security number, we get those scores. So we can manually add those in, but you can put them in too. Follow up. All right. You are required to do follow up on students, and I'll cover that in an actual different module when we get into how to do things that aren't attendance and testing and students. Just know that you're required to do follow up, and here's where you do it. The Entrain Post-Sec tab, I will cover some of this information in its own separate module. But if you were an ASC, an Adult Secondary Credit Recovery School, or you were giving them adult secondary credits to get them an actual high school diploma and not the HSE, this is the screen over here where you would put in their ASC starting credits, their initial grade level, and go from there. And then how many credits they earned through you, and then did they get their diploma. Okay? That's all right here. So that is the basic overview of the student views, the student view, all right? So I also said that if I go to views and students, you would be able to do some things that are really cool on the student views. So I went to students and views, and you can see that it says, hey, start your search. So you can search by an individual student in the search box, or just click view all. Some things to note on this screen. One, when it loads the records, it will give you an overview down at the bottom of how many student records are in your system. Currently, I have 6. Okay. It tells you down at the bottom who's logged in, what personality you're in, and the date and time and all of that stuff. But on the student views, this is the default of how it loads the students. And remember, I said you can drag and move, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. You have to have your errors cleaned up by the 10th of every month. So this issues column may be way over here to the right. It may not be right here, but I'm going to left click and hold down on my mouse button and drag. So left click and drag and drop that column right next to the student name so that it's right here to the left. So no matter what size this window is, that is always right there. I'm also going to move the focus subject over here. Okay. So that I know that what their focus subject is. Why is that important? You're required to set their focus subject. So all of your students should have a focus subject. It doesn't matter what it is. It should be their lowest score that you're focusing on. Like they need reading. They struggle with reading. So you're helping them learn reading. If they get a measurable skill gain in any subject, your program will get credit for it. This screen will only show gains and things for this focus subject. It's just coded for the focus subject. So don't go, hey, this student got a gain and it's not showing a gain. That's not what this screen is for. This is just a basic overview. We can't recode this screen to be able to be like table 4, or this screen will never work. An NRS table 4 shows you what your measurable skill gains are. And it takes a minute for it to run. So this just loads the basic information for the focus subject only. Their attendance hours and all of that stuff is based on the last course. So if they're in more than one course, whatever the course was that got the last set of hours, that will change. All right, so all of the hours for attendance for for hours till and hours since they took a test, that is all based on just the focus subject. And there are different tools that we have to help you understand how to test your students. different module. So that's how you move the student columns. That's how you do all of that stuff. Here's how you sort. So if I left click on a column header, I'm going to do student ID. There will be a yellow triangle with a 1 in it that is pointing up. So that means that it is doing, in the case of numbers, smallest to largest, or A to Z. It's ascending. If I want to change it to descending, click it again, and that arrow flips to where it's pointing down. Now it's sorting and descending. I can do that on any column. So this is ascending by last name, ascending or descending by last name. If I want to sort on this column, and then I want to subsort it on another column, I would hold down my shift key and click again. And now if you notice, there is a 1 here and a 2 here, and they're both sorted ascending. So what it did was it sorted by, so if I do this one first, it took that away. Let's put the error on top, and then let's do address ascending. It will group all of your errors and then do the subcategory of their addresses in order, just like Excel. So hold down the shift key. To clear it, just click it again, click on it again, and it takes away that second one. So that's how you view the students. That's how you sort the students. That's how you move your columns. And then when you close, it's going to say, do you want to save your grid settings? Say yes. And it will save those column headers the way they were. If for whatever reason it messes up, okay? If it messes up and something's missing or whatever, if you right click on the columns, you can see what it's displaying or not displaying. You can click reset columns all the way down here at the bottom, and it will reset all of your columns and put them all back the way they were originally shown, and then you can move them again. I'm not going to do it. I want to leave it just here, but that's how you get that fixed. So that's the basics on the student views and how to do an intake. Now, the next module I'm going to cover is going to be on how to do attendance, the various ways to do attendance, and it's only going to be attendance. I'm just going to do a sole video just for attendance. So stay tuned. This has been another DWD Adult Ed training video.